Do you think a billionaire on his own yacht worth 20 million euros can do anything? It's a mistake. In this film, you will learn why the law allows the captain to arrest his wealthy boss. You will see stories in which the commander drops the brand new owner's helicopter straight into the ocean, and why, in the worst case, must he turn the luxurious pantry into a morgue. Maritime law is ruthless. See why. Imagine you have billions of dollars in your account. You buy a super yacht for 20 million euros. You employ a crew of 50 and have your own submarine on board. You are the master of the world, right? Nothing could be more misleading. The moment your yacht leaves the shore, your money and influence cease to matter. The absolute power over you and your property is taken over by your employee, the ship's captain. The clash of a billionaire's inflated ego with the ruthless maritime law is a daily occurrence in this industry. The basis of the captain's authority is the International Solace Convention, which is the Convention on the Safety of Life at Sea, and the ISM Code. The most important regulation, Regulation 34.1, commonly known as Commander's Discretion. The law states very clearly, the owner, the charterer, or any other person on the vessel cannot force the captain to make a decision that he believes jeopardizes safety. What happens when the owner wants to navigate into a shallow, unmarked bay to impress business guests or insists on sailing despite an approaching hurricane? The captain refuses. The billionaire goes into a rage and shouts, "You're fired on the spot." What happens next? A true operational disaster is occurring for the owner. The captain's dismissal without procedure means that the port automatically imposes an arrest on the vessel. No ship is allowed to start its engines and leave the dock without a licensed captain listed on the crew roster. Your employee just grounded you, and you have to pay him a huge compensation for unlawful disciplinary dismissal. And what if drugs appear on board? Wealthy owners often think that a luxury yacht is their private territory where they can party and take drugs on the open sea. The brutal truth is completely different. On all ships, the absolute principle of zero tolerance applies. The captain has no choice here. If the Coast Guard boards and finds even trace amounts of illegal substances, then this worthy fortune mega yacht can be immediately completely confiscated. For this reason, commanders must be ruthless. If the captain learns that the chief or his guests are bringing in illegal substances, the law requires him to take decisive action. There have been situations in the history of yachting where the captain ordered the security to subdue an aggressive, intoxicated billionaire. The owner was brutally locked in his own luxurious bedroom with a guard posted at the door. The yacht immediately interrupted its voyage and turned back to the port. The police were already waiting on the shore, called by the captain. These are not rumors. The scale of drug trafficking in this industry is shocking. Do you remember the case of the 30-meter expedition yacht HCHX in the Spanish Balearics? Spanish customs officers conducted a raid and discovered on board, including hidden in the captain's cabin, up to 300 kilograms of cocaine worth 18 million euros. Crime also reaches the very heights of medicine. Urologist Dr. Francis Martinez and his wife were arrested for illegally prescribing strong opioids, using stolen identities of crew members from the yacht below deck. At sea, the captain is the sheriff and the guardian, and if he turns a blind eye, he goes down with the ship. The captain also has absolute sanitary authority. When suspicions of infections arose during the pandemic on the Superyacht Sea Dream 1 off the coast of Barbados, the captain turned the ship around and issued an absolute order for the isolation of all passengers. Millions in the account won't save you from quarantine if the captain deems you a biological threat. Let's move on to something that makes billionaires' hearts break. There is an ancient maritime law originating from the Code of Hammurabi called General Average. It allows the captain in a situation of extreme danger to consciously sacrifice and destroy property to save the ship and human life. The famous case concerned the nearly 50-meter yacht Nadine, the estate that belonged to Jordan Belfort himself, also known as the Wolf of Wall Street. When the yacht was caught in a deadly Mediterranean storm and began to sink off the coast of Sardinia, the Italian emergency services stated that a safe evacuation is impossible. Reason? The owner's private helicopter blocked the only evacuation spot on board. Captain Mark Elliott, commanding the ship, was backed against the wall. He issued a ruthless order, and the crew, in extreme storm conditions, She unhooked the cargo lines and pushed the helicopter worth a fortune straight into the foaming ocean. The passengers were rescued, but the property was lost forever. Could the owner have dismissed or sued the captain for this? Absolutely not. The captain's decision is sacred, for which ultimately the insurer pays anyway. Moreover, in emergency situations, the captain legally becomes what is known as an agent of necessity. What does that mean? When communication fails and the ship is in danger, the captain can, without asking the billionaire's permission, pledge luxury cars from the yacht garage to a local ship owner, to take out a gigantic loan secured by a ship, or even sell priceless paintings hanging in the main salon, only pay for the rescue tug and port fees. And what happens when arrogance wins and the billionaire ignores the commander? The consequences are horrific. Let's take a look at Florida and the impact of Hurricane Irma. The owner of the beautiful 92-foot yacht My Lady was desperately trying to force the captain to set sail from the port straight into the eye of the cyclone to move the vessel. The experienced captain firmly refused to carry out this suicide mission. The irritated owner, acting on his own, hurriedly tied the ship in the canal by his residence. The result? The wind tore the moorings, and the yacht crashed against the concrete breakwater, turning into a wreck. The insurer refused to pay a big claim of $2 million. Why? Because the owner violated the so-called captain's guarantee. He acted physically alone, without a licensed officer on board. Even more shocking is the cascade of events surrounding the luxurious 56-meter yacht Billionaire. In August 2024, off the coast of Sicily, the vessel with the world's tallest aluminum mast was struck by a sudden waterspout in the middle of the night. The yacht sank within a few minutes to a depth of 50 meters, taking the lives of 7 people, including British technology mogul Mike Lynch. In the face of fractions of a second, the absolute enforcement of SOLAS procedures, the closure of watertight bulkheads, and not business interests is what matters. The scandalous fact is added by the fact that the shipyard, the Italian Sea Group, filed a lawsuit against the crew itself and the widow of the owner for astronomical amounts, reaching hundreds of millions of euros, claiming that human errors led to the destruction of their brand's reputation. We are entering a minefield. Many powerful, wealthy individuals categorically demand that their yachts be fully armed against pirate attacks. According to American law, the captain has the absolute right to issue an order to use deadly force against aggressors and is exempt from liability for damages. But the same weapon poses a gigantic legal trap for the captain. Listen to the loud case from 2009 in Mexico. The guards and customs officers boarded a luxury yacht and found shotguns and rifles in it. The entire arsenal belonged fully legally to an American owner. The yacht captain, John Pearson, honestly declared this weapon in the documents, but he had no idea that local Mexican law requires prior permission directly from the Ministry of Defense. What was the final? The billionaire simply got on a plane and returned home. And his captain was immediately handcuffed and thrown into a heavy Mexican prison for 4 months on charges of arms smuggling. In the eyes of the state, that officer paid the price for the whims of the investor. Today, captains are risking just as much due to the war and sanctions. When the West began to seize the assets of Russian oligarchs, naval officers have come under the scrutiny of special services. An example, the 78-meter Superyacht Tango, valued at $90 million and owned by Victor Vekselberg. The American Department of Justice has charged his 52-year-old British captain, Richard Masters, with implementing a truly espionage operation. The captain was supposed to set up a shell company in Mallorca and change the name of the yacht to the codename Fanta in the transactional systems. It was supposed to lull the vigilance of Western banks settling millions of dollars for fuel and repairs for the sanctioned oligarch. The consequence? A raid by the authorities, the arrest of the captain in Madrid, confiscation of the passport, and the threat of many years in prison in the USA for money laundering. But the famous 106-meter yacht Amadea was intercepted all the way in Fiji. The captain and the head of security spent long days there in custody, sleeping on a mattress thrown on the floor, grilled by the FBI looking for dirt on the Russian oligarch Suleiman Kerimov. Today, this imprisoned colossus stands in San Diego, consuming $7 million a year from American taxpayers just for its maintenance. However, shocking twists of events do happen. Alexei Kuzmichev, the owner of the yacht La Petite Ourse confiscated on the French Riviera, hired brilliant lawyers. They proved that French customs officers made procedural errors when boarding. The court not only released the mega yacht, but also ordered the French state to pay the oligarch compensation of 10,000 euros. At the end, let's debunk the biggest Hollywood myths. Movies make us believe that a captain can marry you on the open sea. Nonsense. On most yachts, the captain has no legal authority to do this. Such a marriage has legal validity only under a few very specific flags, for example, in Bermuda or Malta. However, there is one very dark ceremony for which the captain is personally responsible by law: sudden death on board during the voyage. Superyachts do not have morgues. The captain orders the crew to empty the largest yacht's refrigerator of expensive lobsters and Wagyu beef. Then the temperature is set precisely to 4 degrees Celsius. Bodies must not be frozen, and the luxurious pantry is turned into a temporary morgue, and sometimes it is much worse. On the yacht, far from it, in the Bahamas, the body of 20-year-old stewardess Paige Bell was found. She was brutally murdered by a mechanic. From hour to hour, the ship's captain had to take on the role of the prison chief and investigative detective, isolating the suspect and securing the crime scene. However, the darkest chapter is the so-called custom of the sea. Imagine the ultimate limits of human desperation. In 1884, the British yacht Mignonette sank several thousand miles from civilization. Captain Tom Dudley and 3 crew members found themselves in a lifeboat. After 20 days of horrific drifting on the brink of starvation, Captain Dudley made the most shocking decision of his career. He ordered the killing and eating of his own crew member, 17-year-old Richard Parker, who was close to death. The men survived by feeding on the teenager's body. When they came ashore, Captain Dudley was arrested, charged with murder, and sentenced to death. This verdict established an ironclad principle in law. Even a desperate struggle for survival does not give you the right to kill an innocent person. This terrifying burden of proof is something you cannot buy with money. As you can see, at sea, in the face of the law, the elements and sanctions, you are merely passengers. The true and absolute ruler is the person who is at the helm. What shocked you the most? The dropping of helicopters, the codename Fanta, or the truth about the yacht Mignonette? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and give a thumbs up if you want more stories like this. See you at sea.